Hi, my name's Adam Nobilia. I'm a teacher at Community Services over at TAFE in Redfern. And before I get started, I'd like to acknowledge the Gadigal and Bidjigal people of Maroubra, or Maroubra, Place of Thunder. And I'd also like to acknowledge my Dara community, who I'm a member of. I've been over at TAFE for only about a year now. I started in 2021. I've been working in the jail as a teacher for about 13 years. And I decided to branch out across into TAFE because I wanted to have some new experiences and to teach some new students other than the people I'd been teaching. So community services was a really good fit for me and a great place to work in the Aboriginal community and to teach especially Aboriginal students, which is something I'm really passionate about. I still work 3 days per week in the jail. I take on groups for domestic and family violence. So I work with perpetrators who have been charged with a violent offence against someone in their family. A lot of the conversation in community services is working with victims of offences and families and people who are affected by a domestic and family violence offence. However, I'm generally working on the other side, so actually working directly with the offenders, both in jail and also in the program we run. People ask me often, is it scary in the jail, or are you at risk of being hurt by the students or the inmates? And I always say, well, not really, because bringing kindness to them is something that they don't actually have a lot of. So if anything ever happened in the jail, I'd be the first person that they'd protect because, it has such an impact on them to be treated with kindness and fairness, and it's something they're not really used to. So without that, I wouldn't have an effect on literacy or numeracy or whatever else I'm teaching in there without that connection or rapport. This is a bull roarer which was painted for me in jail by one of my students. He gave me this before his release date, so it's something that's really special to me. Another one that I'm pretty proud of is a painting that says, "To Adam, the best teacher." This is a really important one to me. It was painted by one of my students as a show of thanks for teaching him to read and reconnect with his culture in jail. And it's a really special story. And the shark was his totem, so it actually had significant meaning to him to go ahead and do that for me. I thought it was something that he was working on. I'd supplied him all the paints. I thought it was something he was going to take home, but in fact it turned out to be a gift for me. So something I'm really, really proud of and honoured to have. Learning of my Aboriginality in my adulthood really changed a lot of things for me. It gave me connection to what I already knew, like my connection to the surf and to the ocean, and all of those things started to make sense. And also my relationships with my students in jail really came to life a whole lot more. And then this quest to learn more about my own identity really has been a big driver for me. And so working over at TAFE has been a really big learning curve for me, not only to learn about my own self, but to learn from my students and to be part of the community. A friend of mine gave my name out because I knew a lot of people who struggled with reading and writing, and I guess the producer was looking for people to be cast on the show, and I knew a student who I tutored just in my spare time. I tutored someone from my local community, and I put his name forward, and it was through meeting the producer introducing my student that I met the production team and the casting team. And I had no intention of being on a television show. I was actually just being an advocate for my student who wanted the support. And it wasn't until a few weeks later when they liked the student that I'd put forward that they said, "Oh, you wouldn't happen to know a teacher, would you?" And then I thought, well, that's something I love to do and it'd be a nice experience. And although I was apprehensive at first, it was nice to actually back myself and have a go. So yeah. The aftermath of the show has been really overwhelming, to be honest. We've had, both professionally, I get a lot of people connecting with me and asking how they might get into adult literacy or adult education, which is really nice. We've had that. And I've had a lot of people, ask me to tutor their sons or daughters or to go ahead and teach other courses. So it's really opened up a lot of doors for me. But I think most importantly, and most of the feedback I'm getting is people were really overwhelmed by the number of people in our community who struggled with reading and writing. So it's really opened up a conversation about, not taking for granted our skills, but also there's such a need in our community for literacy and numeracy teachers, but also just just us as citizens to really be encompassing of everyone in our society, reading or not reading, or from all sorts of different cultures. We've been connected with the reading and writing hotline, and that's really been overwhelmed with calls ever since. And also people enrolling in TAFE has been increasing because of the show, which has been wonderful. And just in general, the general public putting their hands up and saying, I struggle as well, and that's something that I've been hiding for many, many years, and now I feel comfortable telling other people about it. So I think if that's one of the legacies we leave, that's a really important step forward.
But it's calm beneath the ocean in the morning.
So I've been playing music for maybe 10 or 11 years or a long time. Everything I do, both with my work in jail and both with my work with Eora, I guess my songs are really deep and poetic, and I think in hindsight I couldn't do one without the other. I think my songs are really meaningful because they connect with people who have been affected by crime or committed a crime, or actually a student in community services. So my songs and my work go hand in hand, and it would be hard to separate the two. My music name, my stage name, is Adam Blacksmith, and the name Blacksmith came about because of my Aboriginal connection and my identity, and it was a combination of black being, an homage to my Aboriginality, and Smith being my mum's maiden name. So it was a really nice fit to have Blacksmith, and I guess I've taken on two identities, and so all of my music is released under Blacksmith. In addition to releasing albums on my own, I worked with Community Restorative Centre a couple of years back, and we did a program where we went around to jails in New South Wales and wrote songs with offenders in custody, and we recorded parts of their songs and really taught them the real basics of songwriting. And now we have two albums called Songbirds, Ballads Behind Bars, which are now available on Bandcamp. You can check them out. So my colleague Murray Cook, brilliant musician, produced them all, and I was just part of the team who helped write those songs. So there's a real strong connection between my songs, but also my work in community services and also corrections. The latest album is going to be called Blind to the Sea for many reasons. It's also the title track of the album. But the album artwork came about from a photo from my cousin, who's actually an astrophotographer, and he took the photograph of me. I put it through some animation effects, and it just really brought it to life. So I'm really proud that my cousin's a part of the album, because I love him a lot, and he's a beautiful man and a talented artist. And the album before and the EP before were artworks commissioned by my friend Gavin J. Hurley, who's a Sydney artist, who also I went to school with, and he's also a musician. It was a really nice marriage between having his artwork represent my music, so it brings us back to our schooling days, which was pretty cool as well. I grew up in Western Sydney, so I grew up in Cabramatta, and I was really connected to all my friends and family there, and the Vietnamese community in Cabramatta. It's a really strong part of my upbringing. But coming to Maroubra really brought me to life. It was the ocean was, I've always been a swimmer, and then becoming a surfer, it was, I think I can't live without being a part of the ocean. So there's a song called Blind to the Sea, which talks about the place of thunder. Blind to the sea meaning that often we forget that we're all connected, and often if we're not looking after our environment on the oceans, and through pollution and just generally not looking after it, we miss a beautiful resource. And we're surrounded by such beautiful nature here in Australia, and I think it's important that we don't take that for granted.
Place of thunder is home to me.